turn all your mics on if they're not on, please?
So our presentation people here?
Yeah, where's Tim?
He's coming. All right, so let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order on February 8th, 2018. Is Diane here?
She's not. I'll call.
Would the director please call the roll?
Mayor Donchis?
I'm here.
Commissioner Pappas?
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Here.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Here.
Commissioner Teese?
Present.
All present.
Is there a motion on the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works December meeting of December 14th, 2017.
Second.
Given the fact I wasn't here, I think I'll abstain, if that's appropriate.
If that's fine. Commissioner Teese will abstain. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the next set of
So
minutes? Discussion, or a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the motion passes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
What were the changes in the agenda? Because I noticed it's a goldenrod. You really got that on it.
Were there any?
No.
Oh.
We do have a meeting with council after the meeting tonight.
Okay.
So, I was to say non-public session, but I don't see that that's on here. So other than that, there are no changes.
Yeah, because we were going to have non-public anyway.
Yes.
We do for personnel as well, so we have two.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the board? If so, you can just come up to the microphone, but there doesn't appear to be anyone. We'll go on to the next item, which is presentation and motion.
Director Cummings.
Let me, can you text me? I just saw him downstairs. This is Tim Cummings, the Economic Development Director, is going to do this.
I thought it was.
If you want to go get him, maybe if you probably can't get into the through the.
Just texted him, so.
Here he is.
Oh, here he is.
Just on cue. All right, we're
You're up.
we're on the scope of work and the proposed fees from the McFarland Johnson, etc. So please introduce yourself. I don't know if you've appeared before the board. I think you have in the past, and please proceed.
Thank you. Yes, for the record, my name is Tim Cummings. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the city. I'm here before you this evening looking for your approval for the city to enter into a contract for essentially the design and permitting work for the East Hollis Street Traffic Improvement Program. This has been a project that has been in front of the city for many years, and I know this area has been studied in the past. We are now at the point for the state to move forward, where we would be acting as the local project manager, and the state is picking up 100% of the costs of this traffic improvement. Typically you see an 80-20 type split, but the state is picking up the entirety of the $3.6-ish million cost. Right now we are looking to just execute on the design phase, which is approximately $256,000. We would like to keep this project on schedule and have the design and permitting done over the next 6 months or so, and that will better inform us in terms of the type of construction project that we would have before us. And as we develop more information, we would be coming back before you for guidance on how the project should actually be executed.
Commissioner Pappas.
Can I just have a quick question for the folks who are watching? So But just to remind them who is going to pay for the, just a reminder as to who's going to pay for the study, just because it's great that the other part is fully funded by the state.
So this study would be paid 100% by the state.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I misheard you, I thought, okay. Because that's what I thought was the issue, but, thank you.
And it's really design, I mean, they're
Right.
going to design the project.
Right, and sometimes those are excluded from state funds, so that's why I asked. I just wanted to make sure I knew.
Other questions, comments?
I have a
Commissioner
question,
Ackerman?
if I could.
Well, I did call on Commissioner Ackerman, then we'll go to Alderman Jettie.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make sure I have a good fundamental understanding, this is the area that is in front of Renaissance Village, and it's going to be incorporate both east and westbound consideration on and to get across the bridge and back into Nashua in a much more flowing way than we have today. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's essentially correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I'm sorry, during the attendance, I don't think we acknowledged Alderman Jettie, but he's been here from the beginning, so Alderman Jettie.
Thank you for the acknowledgement, but that was my question, so I'm all set, thank you.
Commissioner Tease?
Curious to know, provided that the study goes well, what would the timing be for build-out and completion?
This is tentative and subject to change. Construction phase would be the spring of 2020. We would look to start, we would look to be finishing design, rather, in the fall of 2018. And then do all the bidding work throughout 19 and actually start construction again in the spring of 2020 and have it be one construction season.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pappas?
And this probably is more directed at either the director or the city engineer. But I assume we're going to take all this stuff into account before we do our paving.
For this project?
Right, that anything that would possibly be on our paving list.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so streets around there that will be affected may be put off or forward on the list?
We certainly, if they should be, they will be. I don't think we've determined that any streets necessarily will need to be put off at this time, but yes, absolutely. We will take that into account.
And if I may just further elaborate, the area specifically, it would just be segments of Bridge Street, segments of East Hollis Street, and then essentially it runs from east to west, D Street to essentially the center of the river.
Right.
So it's a very confined area. The only real street otherwise in that project area that I didn't mention would be E Street.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's on your paving plan. So it's very minimal
Okay,
streets in the project area that will be reviewed.
Thank you.
But the simple answer is we're not going to pave something and then build over it.
Right.
It's not going to happen, so we're going to. Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, since I've been on the board, this is probably one of the more comprehensive scope of project analysis that's been come to us, so I'm really pleased with that. As they go through the scope of the project and the study and things like that, is there the potential that there may be a recommendation that we need to take a piece of property as to make this, is that a potential?
That could be very much a potential. We won't know that until we start doing some analysis to understand what the right-of-way impacts might be. I would like to believe, though, we don't need to do that, but I won't know that until we have a design in hand.
Okay, thank you. It's a very minor thing, but under phase 1 of engineering study on
Yeah.
page 2, of 8. It talks about making some counts and doing some traffic surveys. It says here weekday PM peak hours, 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm assuming that's 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Yeah. But other than that, it looks wonderful and very comprehensive. And is there more funds available from this? No. Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I noticed on the proposed motion concerning this matter that the total project funding number isn't listed. Is that because it's not city funds that we're approving, so it's not necessary for us to approve the number?
And when you say total project, you mean for the 256?
Yeah, it's a 256.
There would, I guess that's the underlying reason, but there'd be no problem in including the number in the motion, because that's what we're limited to, given the funds that are available, the state funds we're getting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Just one more question to the Development Director. Under the letter from the state of New Hampshire dated January 16th, to yourself, maybe I glossed over it. In the first paragraph, the very last sentence, it says, "In the future, it may be helpful to engage staff from the city's Public Work Division in development of the IGE." What does IGE stand for?
Independent Government Evaluation, which is a certain process that you need to go through with this type of project.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Other comments, questions? Is there a motion regarding this contract?
Are you looking for accept and place on file, or
No,
to
we're
approve
looking
the
for
contract?
a motion to approve the scope of work, et cetera.
I would move that we approve the scope of work that is going to be done. Actually, no, you're right, it does say presentation and motion. I approve the scope of work and the proposed fees from McFarland Johnson of Concord, New Hampshire for the engineering study of East Hollis Street, Bridge Street intersection improvements. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund Grant Activity, multi-lane roundabout East Hollis.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Cummings.
Thank you.
Next, we have the wastewater.
Okay.
Item
Move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Is there a motion on item B?
Move to approve the purchase of 3 new raw sewer pump drives and associated installation accessories in the amount of $33,000 from Granite City Electric Supply Company of Nashua, New Hampshire. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Account Category 81, Capital Outlay Improvements.
Seconded?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item C.
I move to approve the purchase of 1 new raw sewage pump suction cover in the amount of $15,800 from Xylem of Woburn, Massachusetts. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Account Category 54, Property Services.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item D.
I'll move to approve change order number 9 to the Headworks Upgrades contract with T. Buck Construction in the amount of $11,488.75. Funding is through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, SRF Loan Activity Headworks Upgrades.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Turn. All right, I move to approve the change order 1 to the SCADA upgrades contract to the Electrical Installations Incorporated of Moulton Borough, New Hampshire, in the amount of $114,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, WRF, Activity SCADA Upgrades.
Second it?
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
I just had a question for the super.
Yes.
I'm Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent, City of Nashua. Sorry.
Thank you.
Superintendent, can you explain that a little bit? It seems like that's quite a sum of an upgrade. $114,000.
Yep.
Which wasn't expected. I mean, it seems like a high change order. And the other question I had was, do we use Wright Pierce as a consultant on this project, or no?
No, the original consultant on this, and they were the design engineers for this project, was Woodard and Curran. They also designed SCADA systems and install them. But the contractor was electrical installations. The part of the project that was going to be done by Woodard and Curran was for the programming of the SCADA system once it was installed. And new control panels were to be tested by the design engineer and not part of the contractor's responsibility. We've recently got rid of Woodard and Curran. Now it's being overseen by Weston and Sampson. But electrical installations can do the startup and the programming of this. They were the original installers of some of the programs back on the facility about 40 years ago. So they are capable. We do have savings. I think the Woodard and Curran was going to do it for $173,000 in their contract. So this is $114,000 being done under electrical installations.
Great.
And for perspective, how big of a contract are we talking? On a percentage basis, 114 is about how much?
Well, the total contract, $591,000, so this is in addition to that.
Okay.
That would be the total contract. The design engineering portion has already been done, so it's just being overseen by Weston and Sampson.
Understood. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
I have a motion, and I would like to speak to it. To approve,
Commissioner Pappas?
I'm sorry, to approve the steam system repairs by Armand E. Lemire Company, Inc. of Hooksett, New Hampshire, not in an amount not to exceed $20,000. Funding is through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, account activity, 55 other services.
Second.
Discussion?
At the risk of sending you running back to Milford,
Please don't do that.
I don't know if it has been a very frustrating item. It would seem that one would be able to get a heating system up and running. I joked after 2 years' worth of going over this, are you sure that my husband didn't pick out the contractors behind this? Because I felt like I was dealing with something from my house where we think we're getting a great deal. And I understand in the scheme of things and how much things cost at wastewater, that $20,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money. But given what we have put in to this heating system, and, when we have these issues, actually, I have to tell you, we've had the luck of the draw having the city attorney here. Within the next couple of months, I would really like us to take a look. I cannot even, for Commissioner Tease, explain the aggravation and the amount of money, time, effort, and energy put into getting this system running, and people are either freezing cold or they're steaming hot. And it just doesn't seem like it's rocket science. And as I said, this $20,000 puts me over the edge because I cannot believe with the number of years we have worked on this heating system, it still doesn't work. Who's responsible for what? And I get it doesn't come out of the city budget. I get it comes out of a user fee budget. But if it were your home and you tried to do a project like that and it's still not working, at a certain point, someone's got to be responsible for something. So I get that we've got a real busy time of year, but whether it's a month, whether it's 2 months, I would like us to take a 2-year look at what we've done to the heating system there, who's been paid what, take a peek at the contracts into those. At a certain point, like, a heating system has to work. You know, I mean, when I had work done at my house, I had several people in, well, I don't know, the superstorm, we got steam heat. It was very clear they didn't know what they were talking about, and after freezing for 3 years, I actually, I did a contact I knew from Public Works. It was a commissioner that knew a lot about steam heat, and I had someone in that said, you don't have enough BTUs to heat your house. Okay, well, I may not understand heating systems, but I understand that certain parts of the house, you're steaming hot, and then certain parts of the house, you can have it at 80 degrees and it's still freezing. So I would really like us to take a look as a board as to how much we have spent on this heating system. I would love to have, I assume that there are some sort of contracts involved with this stuff. And at a certain point, for the people that we paid the bulk of money to, are they responsible for nothing? I don't know how other people feel about this, but I'm pretty frustrated about it. And again, I don't want to send you running back to Milford. I don't know if other people have thoughts on it, but.
So there, and again,
I can answer to that if you like.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I just don't want to confuse you. This is 2 different heating
Yeah.
projects. We do have an HVAC project that is going on. It's been going on for a while. It's nearing the end. We see a substantial completion in March for that. This is an independent project, which stems off of new boilers that were installed in 2015. The boilers were installed, however, there's a lot of attachments to that boiler that are old. They go back 40 years. So there's valves being installed. There's already a series of things that have been replaced, steam controls. There were steam leaks that were repaired. The HVAC system project doesn't heat the entire building, the office areas, lab areas and stuff, but there's a lot of process areas that the HVAC project doesn't heat, and this would heat that, and also acts as a secondary backup system to the HVAC system that's going in. And this is a company we hired to do the upgrades independent of that HVAC project.
So, can I ask another question?
Of course.
So, is that ongoing project that I feel like I've been living with for several years, did people not do the job properly? Did we plan it over this amount of time, or was it a list of failures?
I haven't
you
seen
may not
failures
know.
in the time I've been there.
No.
Things are on schedule, and so I'm not aware of any failures, but the project did start prior to me. Mary?
So the original project, I think Commissioner Pappas, that you're thinking about was when we replaced the boilers, the original boilers, and that has been completed, and that's worked fine. And then we had our huge HVAC project that is in the final stages of completion now. So there's sort of been phases of it, so it might seem like it's gone on forever. It has to us as well, but it's a huge project because it's encompassing a lot more than just the office space. It's really kind of, it's the whole plant. So it's sort of been in different phases. And then when we had originally done the boilers, we hadn't addressed all of the steam traps in the building. So once we started to go through some of that, then we found additional items that needed to, different piping and things that needed to be replaced. So that's why it sort of seems like it's been going on forever. But everybody's warm. Nobody's freezing in the building.
And
So-
nobody's in the
Yeah.
office at 100 degrees?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
But you're right, it does seem like it's been going on forever just because the whole plant needed to be addressed, so.
So, I'm sorry, if I can ask a preventative maintenance question. I apologize. How often do we have to do this kind of work, and are we putting it in a long-term budget?
The equipment that's being replaced goes back 40 years. I'm sure there was a lack of maintenance in that time. I'm sure once this is in, we will keep a regular contract, not a contractor, but just a service company on to do preventive maintenance throughout the years, which probably hasn't been done in a while. So what gets installed now may last another 40 years or so.
But yes, it is in our work schedule for replacement.
Okay, how about the, so both this stuff that we're approving now and everything, the litany that we've gone through for 2 years, all of that is in the wharf schedule?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Just a very brief follow-up question for the superintendent. A 40-year-old system is probably coming close to its end of its life cycle. How many steam control valves does this represent? Is this 100% of all?
I don't have a total.
Oh, okay.
Some have already been replaced, so I don't know the count of how many's been replaced. So this number is based off of what the company that's gonna be doing the work gave us as an estimate
Okay.
to replace the rest and get everything up and running the way it should be.
Worst case scenario, suppose the city had to replace the entire 40-year-old system. Is what order of magnitude, rough order of magnitude might that overall cost be?
I don't think it's gonna go over 20,000, personally, just because I mean, the boilers are the big part of it. Those have been replaced, so those are being maintained. This is just adding controllers, steam controllers, and relief valves, and fittings that are leaking. So I don't see anything else mechanical that
Not a problem. The only thing that concerned me was
increase that number.
the discussion on this document that we have in front of her. It says this purchase order will allow us to continue repairs, and I didn't know if you foresaw any future repairs, but it sounds like you don't.
No, anything else would be on like a preventive maintenance program.
Okay.
If something does fail, it would be replaced right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Right, I think the motion before you is to approve the contract in the amount not to exceed $20,000. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. But we still have a few more items. Item G, is there a motion on item G?
I move to approve Amendment 1 to the contract to Wright Pierce for professional services for the final design and bidding phase services for upgrades to the NWTF primary clarifier in an amount not to exceed $221,875. Funding will be through Department 169-Wastewater Fund SRF Loan Activity Primary Tank Upgrades.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item H.
I'll move to approve change order 2 to the digester cleaning project with Denali Wastewater Solutions in the amount not to exceed $100,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, wastewater account category 81 Buildings and Improvements.
Second the motion.
Discussion?
Yes,
Commissioner Moriarty.
yes. Superintendent, could you speak to this change order, please? It looks like another big change order. We approved this in July for 200 and something thousand. This is the second change order, it's 100,000. It seems,
Yeah, correct. This project, we had two storms that happened during this project, which caused shutdowns. Every time you shut down as they're trying to empty the digester, which is the large egg sludge that's filled with sludge, as they try to empty it, if they do a shutdown because of the storm, the egg has to get filled with new sludge that comes into the facility. So we have to start back at square one. So part of this is having to catch up on loads of sludge leaving the facility. They pull the sludge out, they squeeze the water out of it, and we send it off. Also part of this project, we were finding valves. We can't isolate certain parts of the valving system in order to empty the egg. And so this also covers the cost of replacing those valves once the egg is empty. So they were unforeseens. Even today, we found some valves that we couldn't isolate. But we're nearing the end, so I hope, I don't foresee us going over the 100,000. This is to cover the cost of the extra loads that have to leave the facility and some of the valves that we have to purchase to do repairs once the egg is empty.
thank you.
But it has taken longer than traditionally.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move that we accept and place on file the thank you letter from the resident for wastewater.
Second.
This letter congratulates or thanks the department for services performed by a couple of our employees on a hydrant in front of her house. And the motion is to accept and place on file. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Now we're on to Parks and Rec. Item A. Maybe Nick, you should come up just in case there are any questions.
Item A, I move to approve the award of the 2018 City 4th of July fireworks celebration contract to Atlas Pyrovision Entertainment Group of Jaffrey, New Hampshire, in an amount not to exceed $16,500. Funding will be through Department 177, Park and Recreation Fund, General Account Classification 55, Other Services.
Second the motion?
Any discussion?
They've done a fabulous job through the years, I think.
They have.
They're absolutely outstanding.
I have a question,
Alderman
if I
Jettie.
could. It may seem, after we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're talking about 16,500. Maybe it's because I can understand that number better. But it does seem like a lot of money to be blowing up in smoke, so to speak. And I'm wondering if we've ever tried to get, a local corporation or a civic club or anybody of that nature to sponsor this event. Seems like a number that is small enough that we could attract somebody to be willing to put up the money to pay for it, as opposed to it coming out of the taxpayers' pockets.
Nick Caggiano, Parks and Rec Superintendent. We've never gone down that alley. Actually, I don't ever believe having a discussion about that idea. It's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
The only thing I would want to ensure is that the quality of the event doesn't get compromised. Sometimes you go with a lower amount, but the fireworks that we have, that show is a pretty premium show. So as long as that wasn't compromised, I think that's a great idea to look at.
And what happens with do you have anything else?
I was just gonna say, I'm not talking about giving up control, I'm just talking about someone else lending their
Sponsorship.
name to it, and, putting up the money and then being able to, to say that,
An interesting idea.
they sponsor it. Like, naming rights to stadiums, that type
Jetty Family Fireworks Night.
of, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Alderman Jetty Fireworks, that sounds really good.
We'll get you a suite.
Could we, what happens with the concessions on the 4th of July? Are there concessions? There are,
There's
right?
concessions on the 4th of July. The concession agreement that we have with the Silver Knights for any non-ball game event, we share the concessions. The Silver Knights get 60% of the net, and we could take 40% of the net that gets back down to the city. Traditionally, that's been we get about $4,000 on the 4th of July event.
Any other discussion or questions?
So is there any possibility of exploring that idea?
Sure, I can talk about it with the director and possibly someone to solicit. I don't think we'd be able to pull it off this year. You'd have to these contracts need to be locked up pretty early, especially to have a show on the 4th. There's only so many crews around, but we could definitely look at that for the future.
Well, and I don't think Alderman Jetty is proposing that we hold up the contract till we get someone to privately fund it. I think what he's saying is if we found someone for this amount or some part of it, they could maybe put their name on the thing, and that could be done at any time, really, between now and the 4th. I think I understood your idea correctly.
That's exactly right.
Excuse me. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Go ahead. Make a motion to extend the current contract for portable restrooms with the United Site Services of Haverhill, Massachusetts through December 31st, 2018 for the sum of $17,225. Funding will be through Department 166 Parking, Fund, General, Accounting, Classification, 55, Contracted Service, $600, Department 177 Park and Recreation.
660.
Okay, that's fine. My apologies. 55 Contracted Services for $660. Department 177 Park and Recreation Fund, General and Trust, Account Classification 54 Property Services, $13,925. And Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater, Account Classification 55 Contracted Services for $2,640.
A second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Yep.
passes. Item C.
I'll move to eliminate the current vacant nursery worker position at the Parks and Recreation Department and create a groundsman 1 position.
Second motion?
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
Move to approve the purchase of a portable air compressor from ATS Equipment of Boston, Mass. for the sum of $22,943. Funding will be through Department 177 Park and Recreation, Fund, General and Trust, Account Classification 71 Equipment.
Second motion?
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
Move to approve the purchase of roof and door repairs at the Gatehouse in Mine Falls Park from Forcier Contracting of Nashua, New Hampshire for the sum of $13,300. Funding will be through Department 177, Park and Recreation, Fund, Trust, Account Classification, 54, Property Services.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Superintendent, just educate those that are listening today, what exactly is the gatehouse? Where is it physically located? If I believe I know, but I'm not.
The gatehouse is the control structure that was used to create flow into the mill park in West Falls Park, that regulated the flow of water in the canal that ran the mills in the 1800s and early 1900s. In the 70s, they built the hydro dam, and at that point, the gatehouse was pretty much boarded up. Only one gate was operational, and it got into disrepair. Approximately in 2003, 2002, a group of students from the Fairground Middle School, a historic club, a history club, led a campaign to restore it, and we received a HUD grant from Senator Gregg at the time to restore the gatehouse. It's in almost museum quality on the inside. If you ever get a chance, it's open on trail days during the summer when we have Mine Falls Park Trail Days, and the advisory committee has members that will give you a tour and explain the function. So the building was renovated. It's still in really good shape, but we noticed some issues that need to be addressed, and I want to have these issues done now before it starts to infiltrate into the inside of the structure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Commissioner Moriarty,
I'm sorry, is the motion finished?
you want to speak to that or
I
something?
do not, something else.
All right, motion passes. Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, while we have the superintendent here, I just had a question for you, Superintendent. I read with interest the history of the nursery worker and the fact that we used to have a greenhouse. And I've never seen that on your list of things that we'd be looking for. I don't know if as a superintendent, you'd be against that, or is that something that would benefit the city? I think it would, but I'd like your point of view.
It would. Greenhouse would be great. We cannot grow plants at a level that they do commercially now. So to say we'd be able to grow up all of the flowers that we use would be a stretch, because we don't. But years ago, there was a project being considered about putting a greenhouse at the wastewater plant. Dave probably doesn't know it, he left, but and that required the sludge that comes out of the digester to be at a grade, an A grade. Currently, it produces a B, and the cost to produce that A grade is very, very significant. And if it ever got to an A at some point in the future, we'd be able to use that to fertilize fields, fertilize parks, and use it as a growing medium for the annuals. Currently, there's a greenhouse at the cemetery on West Hollis Street, and they grow some extras for us. We kind of have a good relationship with them, so they kind of supplement what we put out there. Once he's done decorating the graves, he'll call me up and say, hey, send the guys over, and I usually get a couple of truckloads, a couple hundred plants out of there. But sure, I'd love to have a greenhouse.
Any other discussion, questions in general for Parks and Rec? If not, we'll go on to solid waste. Thank you, Mr. Caggiano. Item A.
I'll move to approve the purchase of 5 automated and 1 semi-automated solid waste collection vehicles from McNillis, 941 Hemlock Road, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $2,001,555 pursuant to the NJPA contract 1120 14-MCN. Funding will be through Department 168, Solid Waste Fund Bond Activity SURF.
Second motion?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Pappas.
I've said this before about our trucks and surf, that sometimes I think that we really should do a reevaluation. For a short period of time, the former mayor had the city staff department, and a few people came up with a list of when our vehicles should be replaced. And I would really like to see us, since we do have 2 full-time shifts of mechanics, for us, before we approve these projects, to be able to see what maintenance are done on the vehicles. And it's ironic that it came up that this is solid waste, because that's the one area where I would say, I think our other vehicles we're letting go too soon. The reason I feel differently about the solid waste vehicles is there are so many moving parts, especially for the automated. And there's so much that can go wrong that I think, I think we should unload those as quickly as possible. But other than solid waste, but even solid waste vehicles, through the years, 10 years is a long time, and through the 10 years, I've seen us make changes. And one of them was to say we had a fleet manager, and then we had a storekeeper. So we've had a lot of, we've changed positions around, and in some cases given raises, and it was supposed to be the end-all, be-all for us to get answers. But at the end of the day, when any of us have worked on our vehicles, we take home an inventory of what's been done. Perfect example, when you keep an old car, mine is a 2004, and I call my mechanic, hey, did I have the timing belt replaced on that? And, when you start to have a household with 2, maybe 3 vehicles, when you've got teenagers around, you kind of have to keep up on top of that stuff, because if there are certain things that aren't replaced, the vehicles just absolutely die. And I would really like us to see, when we're purchasing new vehicles, I would really like us to have a history of what's been done on the vehicles. Because, as I said, my gut, and I could be wrong, but my gut reaction on some of the vehicles is we're getting rid of them too soon. And it, as I said, ironically, it's the trash vehicles, I absolutely want to get rid of those as quickly as possible, just because there are so many moving parts. And it's a disaster if a trash truck goes down, because whatever you can do in the city, whatever you can get away with delaying, you gotta pick up people's trash. But that being said, I will approve this, but I really think that it's important for us as a board, for oversight, to take a look at the maintenance that's been done on vehicles before we pass them in and give them up. I don't know how other people feel, but those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
I would just make a comment that I was happy to see that all 6 vehicles will be run on compressed natural gas, CNG, so I was very happy to see that.
So am I.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. It's amazing to me that this was actually a pretty nice write-up on what's required, and the fact that we seem to be moving to a new arm design to cut back on mechanical failures. I don't know, and I do agree with Commissioner Pappas, that we should have a little bit more visibility to maybe the SURF process and things of that nature going forward. But from what I understand, that a few of the trucks are currently down, and this makes really good sense. My concern is What's the lead time on these vehicles? Is it relatively significant? We're going to be able to maintain a healthy city as a result of?
We will. We actually, our fleet manager, John Stewart, who you don't see very often, is here this evening, so he can probably speak to that, but there is some lead time. Kevin Nara is also here. He's our solid waste foreman, and he's in charge of overseeing trash pickup. He does a great job, doesn't he? So he can really speak to the day-to-day issues, so.
John Stewart, Fleet Manager at DPW. I agree with Commissioner Pappas that these vehicles, they're very critical. We do have occasionally 2, sometimes 3 down all at once for various mechanical or electrical or hydraulic issues. Looking at the major repairs we've had on some of basically the arms, the average cost of the arm to repair is $10,000 just in parts each time, and that has to be done approximately every 30,000 miles or 3,000 hours. On the truck we have currently that has that new style arm, and we've had that 43 months, we've done 1 repair on it for $3,000. So it's proven to be much more reliable and less maintenance intensive. Also, on the other style arms, the hydraulic systems on them tend to work a lot harder, so we have more leaks, more failures with valves and pumps and that. And they've been averaging, in their lifespan of 6 years, about $2,000 a year for hydraulic failures. And that other truck for 43 months, we've had no hydraulic repairs. So there is an advantage to going to the new style arm, and those trucks, I believe, will last longer just for the fact the way it's designed and built.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I think he was going to mention the lead time on the new vehicle
Lead
purchase.
time, at the beginning of January, they were talking 8 to 9 months build-out time from the date of order.
Commissioner Pappas?
So, I assume for the other question regarding the other vehicles, that we keep track of what we do to the vehicles?
Oh, yes.
And would it be a huge deal for us when we're trading in a vehicle or getting rid of a vehicle to see its history?
Some of the history is hard to find prior to 2012. We weren't using the maintenance software at that time. I came in and we started using it. So that's from 2012 forward, we can track what's been done. A lot easier. I mean, there are files, but they were kept in a Word file, not Excel, or they're kind of hard to decipher.
Are they on the computer?
They're on the computer, yes, but they're not easily easy to break down into workable files to see what has been done.
So, I'm trying to think of the best way to get into the practice.
We do that now. When we bring a truck in, we make a repair order. Parts are charged, labor's charged.
Right, so whatever you have, would that be possible for us to see?
Yeah, it's in the maintenance program that we have, which is RTA.
Saying that they've got good records back to
2012.
2012, so
Right.
6 years back, he can produce a thorough report.
Right, but so let's say that you bought it, let's say that the vehicle was purchased in 2010, then even if it's a 2010 vehicle, when they're ready to trade it in, you'd be able to do what you could to get us the.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, all right, that's great. And then the only other quick question, I don't know if, who.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I don't hear anything falling. So, when we have our trucks down, do we rent them? I'm curious, because it is a 911 emergency.
Oh,
We
yes,
can't
all
pick
hands
up
on deck when they're down, yes.
Kevin Arrow, Solid Waste Foreman. Basically, what we do is when we run out of the automated trucks, which happens quite often, we have to revert back to the rear load packer, which now means we have to have another two people on that truck instead of the one. So that becomes an issue a lot because I end up stealing guys from the landfill, and that puts things behind on the landfill. So that's
basically what we're getting at now. It's probably in the past year and a half, I've seen quite a decline of the trucks, you know, being down more and more every day. You know, John can
Right.
confirm that, but that's really the issue. And now with them being 8 to 10 months, you know, lead time, it's very important.
That's a long time. So just for folks who are watching, because I have gotten calls, so when, let's say that it's a recycle truck that goes down, sometimes you do have to use a packer for recycling.
Oh, yeah,
But
the
you do-
packers we
just so
use,
that people, so when people think that their recycling is going into a trash truck,
right. The packers we use for, you know, recycling, trash, yard waste, trees, Christmas trees.
Right.
And the same with the semi-automated trucks. Sometimes I have to use them for trash. If an automated truck goes down,
Right.
and it's a route where I can send, you know, that semi-automated truck out with one guy,
right,
it's not half as fast as, you know, the automated truck or as efficient, and those trucks are a lot lower. So when we do trash with those trucks, bringing them out into the cell to dump them is not a good idea.
Right.
So, but one thing to remember, that the most important thing is the trucks that we have now, like the first generation trucks that we have, the arm has so many parts, and it's so hard to rebuild.
Yeah.
And this ZR that we got, I don't know how many years back, 4 years back, it was a demo when we got it, and it's the best running truck in the fleet. When we have less problems with it, and the driver can pick up the barrel, and it doesn't shake all over the place. So if there's a little bit of overflow,
Right.
it just goes right up and doesn't dump it all over the place. So, and a lot less moving parts.
no, thank you. So just, again, for the folks out there.
Yes.
If they see their recycling going into a packer.
Don't panic.
We're not dumping it. All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. Just one follow-up question. What is the typical lifespan of one of these new vehicles estimated to be? Do we know, or is it based
I
on wear
don't
and
think
tear?
it's a real known quantity because of the usage. How many stops we do a day? 500, 600?
600, I would say an average 600 plus. But you have to remember that these trucks are used exclusively for trash. So anything that's in that barrel, you know, trash has a very high moisture content to it.
Mm-hmm.
Very abrasive because you don't know what's in there.
Right.
And it kind of, you know, rots it from the inside out.
Right. I'm in full support of this, but just a couple of quick clarifying questions. So if we don't know the life cycle of the new equipment coming in, based on wear and tear, how old are these existing pieces of equipment? How many years old?
These ones we have now are 6 years old,
6 years old.
72 months.
Okay. And one last question, and it will be the last question. Is the amount that we're appropriating now net of the trade-in value of the existing vehicles? Or will that be a benefit from this particular? The write-up says we can get some trade-in value for what we have. Is the net amount that we're gonna be appropriating reflective of that
No,
trade-in
no,
value?
The trade-in value is not reflected there. 'Cause
Okay,
that-
so
that's an unknown at this time
Understood.
until we get close to getting the new ones in.
Okay.
Then they'll come out and evaluate them, and
And I would perceive, Director, that that money would just flow back into the general fund?
That's correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
good question.
In our fleet plan, the life of these automated trucks is 5 years, so.
A long time, but
I'm ready to vote.
Is everyone else ready to vote? Any other discussions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We next have an informational item.
I'll move to accept and place on file the NHDES letter regarding household hazardous waste collection inspection.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Tease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're on the topic of solid waste, I thought I'd ask the director a question.
Could you please, the director here.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So today is my garbage day, and I'm generally a morning puller out to the street. And because of the snowstorm, school was canceled yesterday. I looked at my wife and I said, "Do you think there's garbage pickup today?" Which she immediately shot back, "You should know, you're the commissioner." So I'm curious to know.
Good point.
When, yeah, she is smart.
She's a smart woman.
So when is garbage pickup ever delayed? I just kind of presume there's no schools, perhaps no garbage pickup. But
No, there was, we did pick up garbage, trash. We usually always pick up trash. It's very rare.
It would have
that-
to be a bad storm.
It would have to be a really bad storm, and it depends partly on the timing, too. Yesterday was really a perfect storm, because we had plenty of time to pick up trash, and then the solid waste folks came over and plowed. So we would really only cancel trash if it wasn't safe for the trash trucks to be out, or we needed the solid waste people, which there's 17 of them that also plow. So, but we do put that out in a press release. I don't know if you've seen the press release we posted on our new Facebook page. We posted on the front page of the city website, and also our own page, and we send it to other various media outlets. So that's where that would be posted if we were going to cancel trash. And we also will send out a notification if you have signed up for Code Red. We would also send out a notification on Code Red to let you know that your trash was delayed.
But we have had them a few times.
We have, yes. We almost
It's a
never.
disaster when it happens.
Our assistant director really hates canceling trash.
It's terrible.
It is terrible. You know, if you have a snowstorm on a Tuesday, by the time you get to Thursday and Friday, people just cannot remember why their trash didn't get
terrible.
picked up. And so the phone rings off the hook. So it's disruptive. And then if we have a holiday in that week, we really don't have another day to pick up trash. So we try not to delay or not pick up trash, but it does happen from time to
I'll
time.
be
But
well prepared. Thank
it would definitely go out in a press release if we did.
Code Red, they're
And Code
really
Red.
good about, that stuff.
Mayor, could I ask?
Yes.
This Facebook page, how do people find that?
No.
Just by searching Nashua
I'm not speaking loud.
Public Work. Sorry. Just look for Nashua Public Works, and we're also on Twitter at Nashua DPW. So,
Thank you.
Ernie, I'll tag you on it right now.
Well, while you're speaking
do
of
that
that,
stuff.
this is Lauren Byers, our Public Relations Administrator, who's doing an awesome job, by the way. You want to talk about how many hits we're getting?
we're getting a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty
So due to
awesome.
this storm, I wrote in one of the plows yesterday. It was so much fun. And I posted on Twitter and Facebook from the plow. And within an hour, we had 1,000, we reached 1,000 people.
That's great.
And by the end of the day, we were over almost 6,000 on just that one post. Well, 4,000 on that one and 6,000 on the snow emergency. That sparked a lot of interest. And it was shared a good number of times. So we're getting a lot of coverage, even post clicks. So we seem to finally be reaching people in a positive way.
And how many likes are on the Public Works page?
We're up to we're just under 1,000, and then another 400 or 500 followers.
Okay.
I wanted to hit 10,000 in the first month, but I was a little optimistic, but if you add up all that, it comes up to 10,000. So we're doing all right. People seem to be enjoying the updates on the road closures or the snow emergencies or trash. They like, a lot of people do use social media these days to get their information, but it's also on the website, and it does go out to all the media. So there's plenty, and Code Red, of course, there's plenty of ways to get it.
Alderman Jettie.
So when you were riding in the truck, were you the wingman?
I was the wingman.
I
and
noticed there are a
enjoyed it.
couple of granite posts on the corner of High Street and Main Street that are now missing. Did you know anything about that?
No, I know nothing about that.
Then hit it when you went by.
I waved at people, that was my job as we went by, and they all waved back on Main Street. Very friendly group out there.
Those are getting, believe it or not, we're not usually the ones that knock those down, but
Yeah, wasn't us.
they do. They just shear those granite posts. So thank you for letting me know that. We'll look into that.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. As a result of the social media awareness, and I know we had a snow emergency, did we see a reduction in the number of vehicles we had to tow during the snow emergency? Or is that something we don't ask?
No, no, there was not a reduction in the number of vehicles that we needed to tow. In fact, there were several vehicles that didn't get towed this storm that should have, and we're looking into that now. But no, we didn't see a reduction. Yeah.
Anything else for solid waste or for social media?
Congratulations.
Next, engineering. Item A.
I'll
Move to-
oh, go ahead.
Move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit and fees as submitted.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Maybe, Mr. Dukran, maybe you should come up to the podium because it's possible we get some questions on these next motions. Item B.
I move to approve the sole source contract with Ocean State Signal in the amount of $146,500 for the purchase and installation of Eagle brand traffic controller monitors and Eagle brand compatible equipment. Funding is through Department 160 Engineering Fund Grant Activity Highway Block Grant.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, while we're on the subject of traffic controls, I've been meaning to ask Mr. Dukran this, and I keep forgetting, but now I remember, so I'm going to ask you. Monday mornings at 8 o'clock, I go on to George Russell's radio show, and he keeps asking me about the traffic lights. You know, why is this, why is that? And I keep saying, okay, I'll bring in someone who knows. So maybe one Monday morning you could come in and help to fill him and the public in on how the traffic lights are timed and all that kind of thing.
Well, Mayor, we can we can actually have someone with more expertise than I have. And you're lucky today's your lucky day.
Let's
Wayne
have
Hus-
Mr.
Wayne Hu-
Husband come
Wayne
in.
Husband.
That'd be great. Well, maybe I'll tap him. Do you mind 8 o'clock in the morning? Well, let's be in touch again, but at least now I've remembered to bring it
We
up.
get-
Can I,
Commissioner Pappas.
a comment related to the mayor, just for him to relay something more to a department. So I had a lot of business on Main Street today. I was down 3 times. And certainly, I've always hated the Library Hill light. And I think that sometimes when you sit there and wait forever, when you make people wait so long, I think then you're going to be more likely to have people blow through yellow lights, which is really dangerous. But in 2 of the 3 times that I was down on Main Street today, I saw one of the fire trucks that was not on their way to any emergency hit, because you can tell when they hit the light and the red siren goes off. I don't like sitting waiting on lights either, but when you're in the wrong part of that cycle, you sit there for 5 minutes. So I don't know if it's, well, I guess there are 2 issues. Number one, if there's something we can do so that when that light is hit, that who's ever stuck there isn't sitting there for 5 minutes. And number 2, for the fire department, I get that there is a station right on Amherst Street, but if they don't have their lights on and they're not on their way to an emergency, they should do like everyone else and sit and wait at a light instead of, because my fear is when you make people wait that long at a light, then they're going to be more likely to blow through a yellow light, and that's really not a good thing. So I don't know if there's someone that you know at the fire department that you can speak with about that, but 2 out of the 3 times today that I was at that intersection, always heading south, that I did see that happen when a fire truck was not on its way to emergency, no lights or anything.
Commissioner Tease.
Commissioner Pappas, I feel your pain sometimes living right around the corner from you, going up and down Main Street, but with all due respect, I don't know if it's our area to make a suggestion of the fire department. I think they're governed by a separate board, and, you know, I'm happy for them to get back to their firehouse to ensure they're on the ready in case there is a call, as opposed to being stuck in traffic. So I think it's a small inconvenience generally.
Any other discussion? Item C,
Make a motion to approve the contract for an amount not to exceed $120,000 to William P. Davis Excavation Limited Liability Corporation for the installation of guardrail on Temple Street. Funding will be through Department 160 Engineering, Fund, Grant, Activity, Highway Block Grant.
Second to motion.
any discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is something that we kind of brought to the attention of the Department of Public Works several months ago. They did their due diligence. The fence is in really tough shape. One of the things that I know it's dilapidated. As a result of this work order or this contract, is it our plans to keep the existing fence there and simply put the guardrail up? Or are we planning on making a very tall guardrail of sorts?
So the answer is, guardrails come in a standard height, and it's about 27 inches from the surface of the street. And the guardrail is there to protect from or prevent vehicles from going over the severe drop. So the fence will still be necessary. Our plan this time, because of budget constraints, would be to try and repair the fence where the pieces are broken, and it's more important to get the guardrail in because of the safety measure. And the fence will be needed for, you know, pedestrians or bicyclists and so on.
Exactly. So, although I didn't necessarily say there is some repair going to go on with the fence, is that what I just heard?
That's correct, and the
Okay.
reason is this contractor is not being hired to do the fence. We'll do the fence under a different contract.
Okay. Much needed for the city.
Discussion? Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item D,
Move to approve amendment number 2 to professional services contract with Hayner Swenson, Inc. of Nashua, New Hampshire, to continue project-wide management support for the Broad Street Parkway in the amount of $77,630. Funding for this contract is through Department 160 Engineering, Fund, Bond, Activity, Broad Street Parkway.
Second the motion?
discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item E,
Move to approve the contract for an amount not to exceed $30,000 to SW Cole Engineering for the installation of cores on City of Nashua streets. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund, General, Activity, Paving. Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activities, Sewer Structures, and Sewer Rehab.
Second the motion?
discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll make a
Item
motion-
F,
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 of the construction contract for the LED street lighting conversion project with Siemens Industry Incorporated of Austin, Texas, in the amount of $42,000. Funding will be through Department 161 Street, Fund, Bond, Activity, LED lighting.
Second.
discussion?
Sure. For-
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Through you, directed to the director, is this now going to finish the entire LED conversion for the city?
Yes, so this, we had some damaged lights, so this includes the damaged lights, so we can replace them. And just there's a few more that will have an inventory. We will be coming in, though, with another motion to purchase some additional lights, so we have them on hand. So, and Eversource will be installing them for us, but we need to keep an inventory. But yes, this will wrap up the project.
Any feedback from people that you've interacted with in the public in terms of if they've noticed a significant difference?
We haven't had I don't know, Steve, if you've had a lot of, not a lot. There have been a few complaints from people here and there, but very few.
Okay.
Most everybody's sort of just kind of indifferent, I think.
You know, when these were installed, you might remember that we took a lot of public input, and from some residents, we got the comment that the 4,000 Kelvin, I think is the
Calvin.
Kelvin is the measurement, were too bright or too intense. And so we scaled it back to 3,000, which seems to have, worked.
Yeah.
But we are saving over 10 years, net of the cost of installation, around $2.5 million. So this was, a successful project.
Wow.
Because the electricity bill has gone down. Commissioner Moriarty.
Yeah, it was also my understanding that maybe these bulbs are longer lasting, the LEDs. Is that correct?
We expect a 10-year life.
10-year life. So my follow-up would be, are they also more fragile? Because I'm reading that we are replacing some from the wind. Did we replace the old system as frequently from wind?
I'm not sure about that. We had the wind, but we also had where we had trees falling, taking on the lights and the brackets. One location, a lot of trees fell, took down the whole system, actually took down poles. And so the crashing poles, caused the loss of the lights. So it's kind of hard to tell whether the bulb itself is more fragile, as you put it.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Dukran. Personnel?
Move to accept the resignation of Todd Welch, Assistant Construction Engineer, effective January 9, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Move to accept the retirement of Steve Walters, effective January 31st, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item C.
To accept the resignation of Geraldine Siriadelli, Administrative Assistant 2, effective February 16th, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Now, we need a motion now to go into a non-public session
So moved.
for hiring purposes. Now, there's a text of the motion that has to be.
Oh.
This is to fulfill the right to know.
I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So will the director please call the roll?
Certainly. Mayor Donches?
Yes.
Commissioner Pappas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tease?
Yes.
Motion passes, and we will now go into non-public session. So please, those people in the booth, please stop broadcasting or recording it. And we will ask everyone to leave. I don't know, is Attorney Bolton staying for this? Not that I know of. But you're here for another non-public, right?
For a non-meeting consultation with council.
Okay, so we're getting to his motion.
Would any?
No, that's great.
We need them again, though. Aren't we going to have to go,
Yeah.
No.
we're going to use a different motion?
We just need one. You have to, Director, we need one of those, because we have to seal the minutes.
Oh.
I'll ask. Thank you.
Should I wait to take the, can I take the slide down?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then Commissioner Pappas will the
I'm-
motion to seal the minutes.
I move to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works non-public meeting of February 8th, 2018, until such time that the majority of the board votes the purpose of confidentiality would no longer be served.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We now go to administration. Item A.
Move to approve the proposed 2018 regular meeting dates for the Board of Public Works.
Second?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Before we go any further, Mayor, may we talk about a budget meeting while we're talking about
Sure.
scheduling meetings?
While we're talking about scheduling, when would you like to hold a budget meeting?
Would it be possible to hold a budget meeting on, the mayor's bringing in the budget very early this year, so everything is kind of on a quick timeline. February 22nd between 9 and noon, would that be an available time?
It's a Monday? No.
February, no, that's a Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
February 22nd is a Thursday.
Should be fine.
Would that work for you? Do you know if
I
that works
need
for you,
to
Commissioner
check my
Ackerman?
work schedule.
Okay. You want to let me know?
Yeah,
It's, not sure if it's.
I don't think
it
it's
is.
school vacation. I think it's next week.
Usually goes into the March.
Yeah. So if you could check, February 22nd, and that, we probably could set up a couple hours, whether we need it or not, if that works. If you could let me know, that would be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but
Yeah.
I think it's, as far as I know, it's fine.
Okay. Great. Okay, thank you. I'll just wait to hear from you, Commissioner Ackerman. Commissioner Moriarty, you're okay?
I think I'll be.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Item B is the vote for vice chair of the board, whose duties are to run the board meeting when the chair is not here.
We were waiting for,
Oh,
Well,
when
The high
Andy
sign?
came
Where
in,
were-
I'm sorry.
where
I
were
thought
you?
you left. I didn't want to.
Where were you?
I was in the
Men's,
executive office of the
Oh, you're.
attorney.
We thought you were watching on TV.
Your mic is off.
is there specific language for that motion needed?
No, I think we just, we open the floor to nominations, we accept nominations, then we close nominations, then we vote.
I nominate Joel Ackerman.
Motion is to nominate Joel Ackerman, Commissioner Ackerman. Commissioner Tease.
Move to nominate Kevin Moriarty.
Motion is to nominate Commissioner Moriarty. I don't think we need seconds on those motions. Any other nominations?
Can I speak to it?
Yes, of course.
In the past, we've always done, a lot of the stuff is just more kind of cooperative, like after a couple of years, everyone gets a shot at it. I was able to do it 8 years ago. I think Kevin might have done it once or twice, and I think after Paul Bergeron had been on after 2 years, he did a stint. I mean, as far as, the next term goes, I would say for Commissioner Tease, you put your name out there, you put yourself on the line, you got a couple of years under your belt, and you know, at that point, it kind of it gives everyone at least a turn. And yes, so that's my thinking.
Commissioner Tees.
So long as Commissioner Ackerman would accept the nomination, I would withdraw my nomination of Commissioner Moriarty.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm humbled, and I would be delighted to serve as vice chair for the upcoming fiscal year.
Well, and I guess I would say that if, since Commissioner Moriarty was nominated and withdrew his name, there's also the position of Strategic Planning Committee, which you may wish to serve on, but we'll get to that soon. All right, so I think, has Commissioner Moriarty, is your nomination withdrawn?
Yes.
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 So now we have one nomination. Is there a motion to close nominations?
I'll move to close nominations.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And is there a motion to cast one ballot or unanimous vote for Commissioner Moriarty? Excuse me, Commissioner Ackerman? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So Commissioner Ackerman is elected as chair of the Board of Public Works, as vice chair of the Board of Public Works. Congratulations.
Great.
Now there's the chair's appointment of the BPW Pension Board. I propose, or I appoint, I think Commissioner Tees, given his background in finance and in banking. I think you'd be great on the board. This is all other city employees, but for these, are in the state pension system. These our city public works employees are in this separate pension system. Last I knew, it's about 88 or 85% funded, unlike the state of New Hampshire. So it's
So I know what I'm getting into.
So the pension system, as pension systems go, is quite solvent, and you know, your main duties are to help manage the money, or to at least talk with the people that are managing the money, and consider any other objects or issues that come up.
Right. Thank you for the appointment.
And if you will consent, then you will serve as the
Consent, thank you.
Do you know,
If I could say, I'm also the aldermanic liaison to the BPW pension, and we had a meeting last week, and the people who manage the fund came from New York, and they were just all big smiles and everything. Of course, that was before the stock market took its tumble. I don't know if they're still smiling, but they seemed pretty happy at the time.
No, I would agree. I didn't want to sandbag someone, but normally everyone just tries to dodge this bullet. But I think that Commissioner Tees is, you know, custom made for the position. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tees. You can report to us regarding any problems or any improvements you feel should be made, whatever.
From a procedural standpoint, how does that connection happen in terms of introduction or?
There, you know, as far as you knowing about the meetings and everything,
Yes.
you'll
Mr.
be
Fredette?
notified. You'll
Okay.
be notified of the meetings, and
Okay.
you'll now on the board.
Okay, thank you.
And I just from this, just so he knows, from the city clerk's office, I think you just have to list, like you might have to list that when you do your paperwork for.
Okay.
But
We're
it
going to
says
let
it
them
on
know
there.
that you were appointed.
Right, but sometimes you just get the stuff in the mail, that's all. I just wanted to give him a heads up.
I'll call you. I know where you live.
All right, the next is the chair's appointment of the Strategic Planning Committee. Commissioner Moriarty, who was very gracious to withdraw his nomination, I think would do a great job on the Strategic Planning Committee, which gets together every couple of months to talk about city priorities.
Mhm.
If you would accept that appointment, if you wished that appointment.
I would accept. Thank you, Mayor.
You'll be notified of those meetings as well.
Thank you.
There's now item E.
I'll move to approve to change the title of Deputy Manager of Engineering to Deputy City Engineer.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Director's report.
Go through this quickly. It's actually not all that long this month. This is just a picture of the Burke Street Sewer Project and the crosswalks at Newbury and Arlington Street. This is a subsurface infiltration system that was installed on private property on Burke Street. It's basically a water runoff containment system. This is a construction inspection, sewer services connection that the residents at Riverside Landing on Bridge Street. Our paving program, where our street list for 2018 is being finalized. We're going to pave 23 miles of streets, which is pretty awesome. So it's going to be a lot of paving going on in the city. We should have that paving list for you for our March meeting. The Stonehouse at Greeley Park. This was a.
And if we do Concord Street, what's your number? I forget. What's your number?
He's got a big pothole right
93.
So, Concord Street is going to be on the list because it's not been paved for a long time, and it has a lot of potholes, but maybe we should just go to 90. You know what I mean?
No,
Save a little
please.
bit of money. What do you think?
I would appreciate the entire street, thank you.
All right.
This is a professional photograph of the Stonehouse at Greeley Park, which is really beautiful.
That is really pretty.
This is Hydro Jam at Mine Falls Park. You can see that the dam froze. Winter sledding at Roby Park, which is very popular. Snowshoeing in Mine Falls Park. We have a snowshoe program on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10, if anybody wants to join that. This is skating at Roby Park. We've had really good luck with our ice rink this year. And we also have skating at Legacy Playground and at North Common. Snow removal on West Pearl Street. We did some downtown snow removal. We've had a tremendous amount of potholes, as the mayor was just referring to. With all the rain and then the warm temperatures, they really opened up. So when we're not plowing snow, we're filling potholes these days. We have 7 or 8 crews out every day just filling potholes. And when it's really cold, of course, we're filling it with cold patch, which doesn't last. It's just a temporary fix. So when it's warmer and the plants are open, we try to use hot asphalt. But so if you see potholes that reopen, that's why, unfortunately. We had 2 sinkholes, one at Lead Street and Patton Court, and one at Amherst Street in Vernon, and both we're still working on. The HVAC system that we were talking about earlier is 80% complete at the wastewater treatment plant. It should be totally completed by the beginning of March. The digester cleaning, again, we spoke about that. That's been a bit of a challenge, more of a challenge than we expected, but we're hoping that that's going to be completed here in the next month. That's quite an endeavor to empty the egg. These are mechanical bar screens that were installed in the Henricks project. Trash carts in the snowbank. Please don't do this. You'd be surprised how often this happens. We just can't get carts in snowbanks. They have to be at the edge of the curb. It makes trash collection almost impossible. We do have a new Battery Basics flyer, and which I have for you to look at. It's we put this together. We get a lot of questions about what can you do with batteries, what type of batteries will you take. So this sort of explains all of that, which is helpful. And some of them need to be brought to our hazardous waste collection days, not to the landfill.
Thank you.
The landfill will be closed on Monday, February 19th. in observance of President's Day, and all trash will be delayed by 1 day that week. The other thing that we brought, we have an internal newsletter. It's something we started a while ago. It had kind of been put on hold. Lauren has brought it back, and this is our January newsletter. So thought we'd bring, it's internal, but we thought we'd give you a copy so you could see some that we're doing. We also have on it's covered by a code over there, but we have some solid waste calendars, our recycling calendar contest over there. So if you'd like to take one, those are really fun too. So. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions or comments for the commissioner? Commissioner
Director,
Moriarty.
One
Yes.
question. You mentioned last meeting that the state, that Department of Motor Vehicle is moving the sticker for inspection.
Yes.
So are we then moving our landfill sticker, or no?
We are. So landfill stickers should be now placed on the right side. So on the passenger side of the car windshield, way over on the right.
So that person in the gatehouse has more of a mission now
Yes.
to check those
Yes.
windshields that are, yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
For $5, I mean.
yeah, the state trumps, I guess, our landfill stickers, unfortunately. They didn't check with us before they did that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. At our January meeting, perhaps, we appropriated some money. I was just curious if see, it's a thing in your report. The activity was CLD, the consultant, reviewing the Canal Street Bridge. Is that moving along as planned?
Engineer Dukran, do you want to speak to that?
That item has just been approved by the Finance Committee last night. So we'll move forward with it.
Well, actually, we didn't hold the finance committee last night, so it will be approved soon.
Okay, it wasn't the agenda for
think.
last night.
Yes, we could, the weather, we didn't, it was the only item, so we didn't hold the meeting.
Just out of curiosity, once it is approved, because it's an absolute necessity for the city of Nashua, what's the time frame for the outcome of that? Is it 2 or 3 months?
Well, we have to go out there and do some field work. We have to do some borings and based on that information, then come up with some designs and so on. So it could be several months. I would anticipate it'll probably take pretty much the rest of the construction season just to come up with the design. Hopefully, the work that they come up with can be done during the winter, so we don't slow down the project.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Could I?
Alderman, yes, of course. Alderman Jettie.
So, as you get ready for the paving project and all the streets you're going to pave, during this last fall, as I was campaigning, I was at streets that had been recently paved, and people were grateful that the streets had been paved, but they did have one complaint, and I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it for future streets, but they talked about these streets had granite curbs, and when we repaved the streets, we raised the paving, so now the granite curb, which helped in diverting water, has the granite curb is now shorter
There's
than
less
it
reveal.
used to be.
Mhm.
Is there any way, when we repave, is there any way of doing it such that the old pavement is ground up and reused so that the level of the road stays approximately the same as it was before, or is that impossible?
That, we certainly don't want to reclaim every road, because that would be very expensive. But no, unfortunately, that's what happens as you repave a road. You're going to have less curb reveal, is what we call that. Certainly, though, we'll be looking at drainage issues. We don't want to create any problems. But unfortunately, that's just part of part of the paving process. You will have less. If you look at some of the older streets like Kinsley and West Hollis, you'll notice that there's almost no curb reveal on those streets for that reason, because they've just been, it's been paved over.
So is it possible to raise the curb in accordance with the pavement being raised?
No, that's not really, that would be very expensive to try to do that. That would really increase the cost of the paving of the streets. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. Sure, you can add.
Steve Dukran. Years ago, when we didn't have a budget like we do now, our typical treatment was to just shim and overlay the street, especially residential streets. With a healthier budget, we're able today to mill the street and put back the pavement at the existing level it is. In doing so, well, why we don't want to lower the street is now we have to deal with driveways. You don't want driveways that are higher when you're done. So what we try to achieve is putting back the pavement where it is today. In the past, like you explained, streets were raised and curbs were lower. Well, in essence, curbs got lower. But the cost to raise curbs can be included in the paving project. It's simply not cost effective. But as I said, going forward, we will be milling our streets to at least put back the pavement where it was.
Well, we won't be milling all streets, but we'll
No,
be doing
well,
some over.
Yeah, if we don't, the street is curbed and we don't want to mill, at least we will not create a new drainage problem.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
If I could,
Yes, Alderman Jettie.
so you mentioned in your report, the hydroelectric dam. That's in my ward, and people who are in my ward along the shore of the Nashua River have told me that the level of the river has gone up. Is there a reason for that, or is there any way that can be changed or remedied, or?
That's a good question. So Sarah Marchant, the Director of Community Development, oversees the dams. That's done through the waterways person, Dr. Minot. So I will mention that to them and ask them to reach out to you with an answer to that question.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Could I ask another, Mayor?
Yeah.
So I did want to say that at the last meeting, I was talking about the sidewalk plowing in the downtown area, and you mentioned that it's the community development.
Economic development.
Economic
Yeah.
development, people who do that. I just want to say that this last storm, they did a much nicer job, and I congratulate whoever's responsible for that.
I will pass that on to them.
Thank you. I happened to drive by Burke Street, and I'm not sure exactly whether I was on the city property or not. It's quite an extensive piece of property. So during the discussion of the Performing Arts Center, the Burke Street thing has come up. What's the status of that? Do we have any plans for that? Has that changed at all?
I joked to Lisa the other day, we sold it. No,
Yeah.
but that's not, that was a joke. We didn't sell it. Well, as you know, the project came forward at a cost of $50 million approximately, and that was not approved. So we still own the property. Now the next step is to consider whether to basically tear down what's there. It was I think understood once we got into the garage design that really it may not be possible to effectively convert the garage or upgrade the garage without sort of a compromised design. So we really need to get back to the subject of what to do with Public Works, and I think the first step in that process should be, and we should schedule a presentation here pretty soon, is to take a look at what we do have and what we are using, which is down at the current Public Works garage and at Greeley Park, where Parks is, and examine the adequacies or inadequacies of those particular facilities and decide how to move forward. So we will be coming to the Board of Public Works with first information and then examination of alternatives.
And lastly, if anyone's interested in the battery basics thing, how do they get this? Is it on the website?
It is. It's on the Solid Waste Department website, and also copies can be picked up also at the Solid Waste Department. Either place.
Okay, thank you.
Or administration. You could come to administration to get it as well. Good question.
Any other comments, questions? If not, we do have the discussion with Attorney Bolton following this meeting, but I think we adjourn this meeting
Yes.
and then we
Correct.
enter the discussion, the legal discussion with Attorney Bolton. Commissioner Pappas.
I'm sorry, I thought we were still under the director's report.
We still are, if you wish to.
For Commissioner comments, I have,
Oh, okay, I forgot the Commissioner comments.
yeah. So, a couple of months back, we, actually more than a few months back, I think it was a really small meeting. I think it was just Commissioner Bergeron, Commissioner Ackerman, and myself that was there, and we granted an exception for someone to cut into Manchester Street, even though we had recently paved the road for Commissioner Tees. I think it's like 5 years. Once we repave a road, I think it's 5 years that people have to, that there's some kind, that people have to come in front of our board to get an exception. And apparently, an attorney came and someone had bought a large property that they wanted to subdivide. And I've made my position clear. I'm not huge on granting those exceptions. But I would appreciate if everyone drove by Manchester Street. I think it's between Henry Burke and, probably between Henry Burke and Royal Oak, maybe. And my understanding is they were supposed to pave like the whole, it's curb to curb with certain frontage. And it looks like a really lousy patch job. And I certainly hope that that's not a permanent job, because it looks terrible, number one. Number two, my other thoughts were, because I'm kind of sensitive to this, I do know a lot about, once we cut into roads, my husband handled the matter for Manchester and Concord. Once you cut into a road, it does degrade the road underneath. So we do have this process, and so for the process, what I would like us to is to have some sort of vehicle where we can come back and say, okay, they have done the patching, they've done it properly. And I'm wondering if we might put a time limitation on it, because if you leave the road pretty much open, even if it's just partially patched during a whole winter, then that is going to do, damage to the road, and it's a shame, because Manchester Street was in terrible shape, and we waited a lot of years for that road to be paved. And I think, given the amount of paving we're going to have to do, we have to figure out a way to say, okay, if this board grants the exception, are there gonna be stipulations that you have to get it paved properly within a certain period of time? And how is the board gonna know that got done?
Are you familiar with
I don't know if anyone has any ideas.
Yes, I'm familiar with the situation. So the work that was done there for this new subdivision is included utility work, gas, water, and sewer connections. So they were all done. The sewer connections are typically deep, and I expect that they were there as deep. What you want to do is give a lot of settlement time, especially for the sewer work. And winter is a good time to allow settling. If you notice our own sewer projects, if they're not done early in the year, we let them settle through the winter and we come back in the spring. So what you'll see happen on Manchester Street in the spring, they will have to do first the cutbacks, that 3-foot cutbacks that I talk about all the time on either side of the
Right.
trench. You have to cut back the street, remove the materials, put in fresh gravels 18 inches deep, then you pave that over. And on top of all of that, then they have to pave the street full width, curb to curb, 40 feet in each direction of the, is it 20 or 40? I think it's 20, in each direction of where the patch was. In this case, it's a substantial length. So when it's all over this spring, it'll be like a brand-new street.
Okay. Is there any way that we can just have I don't know, say a running tab is not the right word for it, but just so that we're able to get back to it, say, sometimes I would look at Commissioner Berger and say, did we ever go back and follow up on that? And we can do some of it by memory, by driving by, but we're gonna start getting a whole lot of these, so I wasn't sure if there was some kind of a way where we could be informed about some sort of whatever follow-up's done.
Yeah, I think if we need to report back where these exceptions were given, we can report it on a monthly basis.
So do you have a sense as to when this Manchester Street will be done properly?
My guess right now is all we're waiting to do is in the springtime, as soon as the weather allows us, they will get on it. The developer there is one of the most responsible developers in the city.
Excellent.
And I think before the summer is over, it will be restored properly.
Excellent, thank you.
Commissioner Tease.
You said the developer is responsible for that work. Do they pledge a letter of credit, sort of a promise to get it done financially?
Yes, all work done in the street by any private entity has to have a bond posted.
Okay, so we're assured that financially the work can get done. It's just a matter of the earth settling, so to speak.
That's
Yep,
correct.
time.
And the bond will go through the warranty period, which is a year from completion of the work.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners' comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the meeting of the Board of Public Works is adjourned at 7:38 PM.